Welcome to Construction Genius. My guest is Nichole Gunn. She is the Chief Marketing Officer of Extu. And Extu are all about effective marketing. So I know from time to time we have these guests on to talk about marketing, and I want to do that for you all because I know that it can be a little confusing what marketing is and how to use it. And Nichole's an expert because she understands that marketing is both an internal activity and an external activity. And it really involves understanding who you are and then understanding who your clients are and marrying those two things so that you can attract the right clients with the right projects in the right locations. And as a result of doing that, you'll be able to build work that makes you money and ensures that your company continues to thrive and grow. So we're going to have a nice little exploration of marketing here today. The themes that are going to come up are ones that are fundamental to your success when it comes to marketing. So listen up, take plenty of notes if you're not driving, and feel free to share the episode with other people who might be interested in the content. Thanks for listening today.
This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership.
Nichole, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thank you, Eric, for having me. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're an expert in marketing, and I know marketing is a bit of a black box for a lot of commercial contractors. So I love having marketing experts come on from time to time just to explore the universe of marketing. So I'd like just to kick off with a big picture question. What is marketing?
$1 million question for a lot of people, right? Marketing can be 100 different things. The way I like to look at it is really it's all about growth. I believe in growth marketing. And when I think about marketing, it's really 5 focus points. You've got brand awareness, has to happen. You've got account-based marketing. It's easier to make money off of your current customers than it is to go out and find a net new. You've got demand, where you go out and you build net new, right? You've got to have that pipeline going. You've got internal marketing. You want your company and the people who work for you to rally behind your vision and your cause. And then you've got sales enablement. You've got to get the right enablement pieces together so that we can have the right pitches, putting in the right ROIs, creating a sense of urgency. All of that is marketing and ultimately growth.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so brand awareness, account-based marketing, which is marketing to your current existing clients. Correct. Okay. Then you have internal marketing. You have the sales enablement. And then there was one more there in the middle. What was that?
Demand generation.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you mean by demand generation?
Really creating that demand for the product or service you offer.
Okay.
You can do that at a plethora of ways through omni-marketing tactics, but that's the gist of it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, now, what makes a good brand?
I think there's good brands and there's great brands. I think a good brand is someone who has a product that's pretty reliable, right? And you talk about it. I think a great brand can take that product that is in high demand or even if it's in low demand, it could tell a story in a way that makes the average consumer go, I need that. I want to be a part of that. And if you can see yourself using it as a consumer, you've done marketing right. You created a demand for it.
Okay, so I don't think that many people who purchase construction services would say something like, I want to be a part of that. They wouldn't phrase it like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So how might someone rephrase that just for the sake of understanding what you're saying? Because I get where you're going with that, but how might we rephrase that?
Well, I would think, okay, so let's say someone's working on a construction site, right? And part of your brand is safety. And what happens through all this, brand isn't just the products and services, it hits internal as well, right? And so if I know I'm going to be taken care of and here's what you do for me and here's the training I'm going to get, all of that can be something that you want to be a part of. But, from that perspective, and if you're sending your people to a job site as an example, if you're using a particular product that you feel good about, all those are things you want to be a part of.
Okay, so, and this is important again, because it's interesting how we often don't think of marketing in the internal way that you're alluding to here.
Correct.
And as a result of that, we slap up websites and we really miss a lot of opportunity to understand and use marketing effectively, both internally and externally. So let me run a quote by you and see what you think about this. This is from a guy named David Hansen. He says, brand is like culture. It's all about repetition and authenticity. Being who you say you are over and over.
That is 125% accurate. It's your promise. It's the character that you're setting forth. And who are we at the end of the day without delivering on our promises? So that's a kudos to David Hansen. It's a very good quote.
So that's our promise. So it's interesting because when we think of marketing, we think of like getting new projects from new clients. But you also mentioned this idea of account-based marketing, which is marketing to my current clients. And I think a lot of people really miss that, even though they understand intellectually and experientially that my business does come from existing clients. And if I can keep a client, it's obviously cheaper than going out and getting a new one. When I'm marketing to my existing clients, what should I have in mind?
What matters to them? You have the relationship already, you know. And if you don't know, you should really, have to invest in figuring that out. It is a great place to start, right? What do they buy? What are they passionate about? We use CRMs to track everything, and you should, as like a Salesforce, right? Every conversation can be tracked now. So whenever I'm talking to Eric, as an example, I know exactly what his pain points are and how I want to position myself to work with him in the future. And some would say, well, that's also sales, but in today's climate, marketing and sales are a partnership, and the best marketers are solving, and salespeople are solving problems every day. The best brands and businesses are solving those problems. So take advantage of those relationships. They want you to just as much as you want to do it.
Okay, so then tell me the distinction between marketing and sales, and at what point do they meet?
I think they meet pretty much middle of funnel, or I shouldn't even say that, top of funnel. Once someone, converts, and they raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested. Right? The salespeople start getting involved. You start making the call. Well, what are you interested in? Now, we already know how they converted, what they were engaging with on your website or marketing materials. You could or should. If you're not tracking that, got to set it up. But, so really starting top of funnel marketing and sales are, doing this really great tango together to move someone through the funnel all the way down to a closed won opportunity or piece of business.
Where do people fall short in terms of their marketing because they see that someone comes in, let's say, at the top of the funnel, but then they cease to market to them as they go through the funnel or sell to them and just kind of get into a sort of, they're not really building the relationship anymore. They're just kind of doing tasks for them. Did you know what I'm trying to say there?
I absolutely do. And it's so crazy that we, in 2024, 25, we still do that. And really what you're talking about is, this is what I think people want to hear about versus really talking about a customer life cycle and understanding, customer or even opportunity life cycle, your customer journey, if you will. What are they engaging with? What's going to happen next? What are the natural points through the sales process that I need to be paying attention to and understanding that? And there are clues throughout your marketing. And so say you do go off your gut in the beginning versus data, you should be able to look at how long are they spending on different pieces, test it. That's not hard to do. Try different marketing messages, go back. I always tell people, go look at their social media accounts. If I go and look at someone's social media account, if they're doing social media, they're talking about something that they're passionate about. Use that to your advantage. Or even just their profiles, right? They're going to talk about things that matter to them. So you can use that to your advantage.
You touched on the internal marketing in terms of, let's say, marketing to my own people, the value of safety and the importance of safety. What are some other aspects of marketing that I need to focus on with my people that a lot of people miss on or don't focus on?
Oh, the wins and losses, the learning moments. I hate to use the word loss, but you should celebrate your wins as an organization, as a group. If something great happens, we should all talk about that. It rallies the troops to something and I go back to everyone wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves and talk about pushing the envelope, right? People will rally behind the cause, but even your learning moments, if you have I hate the word failure, but something that you learn from, you make a mistake or something and you share it, how many people learn and can be prevented from making that same mistake? And brands should be okay with that.
So then with that in mind, how far should a company push their internal marketing? Because perhaps at the end of the day, someone's like, I really appreciate your efforts here, but, I'm here to pick up a paycheck. I'm here to do my very best while I'm at work. But I'm not asking you to envelop my whole life with your marketing awesomeness. I'm just asking you to provide for me a safe place to work with a fair paycheck.
So I think that really goes back to the culture that you're trying to build within your organization. I can tell you in our organization, right? I know this is not necessarily commercial contractors. However, I don't want someone who just wants to show up and earn a paycheck. Yep. I want someone who's going to make it better for not just for themselves, but for the company and for every person who shows up to work alongside them that you interact with. Because the people are also a component of your brand. Every interaction someone has with one of your employees or someone who works on behalf of your brand is building your brand's reputation. And so, like I said, I think that goes back to a culture piece.
So that's very vital there, because if you're trying to establish a brand and the way that you're describing your brand is a contradiction of your culture or is in opposition to your culture, then that's where that dissonance comes in and that lack of authenticity comes in. And that idea of people being a reflection of your brand then brings the emphasis on the fact that if my marketing is going to be excellent, I need to be thinking of it all the way back into my hiring process and the types of people I'm bringing into my organization. Am I following your thinking there?
100%. And the people who are in my organization, how do I scale them up? And which roles need to be scaled to what degree? There are a lot of different leadership tools that you can use, like a 9-box and different evaluations you can use to help do those sorts of things. But ultimately, I think you have to start with the basics in that, right? And just really understand what you're trying to build, big picture.
Okay, so let's say we understand that logic that I'm marketing internally to my folks so that they are excited about being involved with my company. As a result of that, there's a consistency in my messaging, not just on my website, but on my job site and other places. Tell me where the data come in, because I think a lot of construction executives are comfortable with the data as it relates to building a project. But when it comes to marketing, it can be a bit of a black box. And so tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking in terms of the key data that I need in order to be effective with my marketing.
So it depends on what you're doing, but ultimately I think it all comes down to, well, first I want to go back. If your data is a black hole, we need to talk, right? Let me help you. You can call me in 2024, and it shouldn't be that way, right? And so understanding the marketing tactics that you're running should set some of those leading indicators. Right. So are you looking at engagement? Are you looking at website visits? What does conversion look like? All the way down to the lagging. Right. And that's where for CMO, as an example, clicks to a website are great. I want to know what, my cost per lead is. I want to know what is my average ACV as an example. What's the GP that we're going to get from that?
What's ACV and GP?
Annual contract value or average contract value. And then you get down to gross profit. And I need to know that. I have a board I have to tell this. I have stakeholders that need to understand, right? And so we want to make sure that every marketing dollar we invest has an attributable ROI. And typically that comes from sales.
Let me interrupt you. I know that most of my listeners are going to understand their average contract value. They're going to understand their gross profit. I'm not sure they're going to understand how much it costs them to get a lead in the door. So where should they be looking to begin to articulate that and to understand that?
Sure. So a couple different ways, right? I would say let's start with something simple. You've got paid media. You're running a LinkedIn account, right? And you've got 500 leads that you just generated. Well, what was your actual spend? How much did you spend? And I'm not talking about the people cost, because OpEx is different. You kind of have to put this over here. I'm talking about the true marketing spend on those ads. Let's just say it was, and you have different factors. Impressions, cost per clicks, different, depending on which tool you're using, but impressions for LinkedIn, right? So you can, simple math, go in and do a division. If you had 500 leads on $1,000 budget, that cost $2, right?
Right.
So and that's a pretty damn good CPL cost, right? So, a couple of things like that. Admittedly, there are different tools. J4, as an example, can help you break a lot of these things down. LinkedIn can help you break some of those costs down. So I largely depend on those tools. We export everything in and then run our calculations through Salesforce. Huge Salesforce advocate. I believe that that's the best CRM on the planet, and we should all be using it. But and then you just start evaluating the data from there. You can do the same thing with SEO if you're search engine marketing, right? So if you're trying to drive organic leads, understanding where they're coming from, what dollars are you putting toward that? And then again, simple math.
Yep. So then when it comes to marketing, construction companies, the ones who are listening here, they're bidding on projects that are 20, 30, 40, $50 million in revenue. And they don't necessarily, Fred, the purchasing agent of the, let's say, government agency, is not searching Google for a wastewater contractor and then clicking on the link with a paid ad. And so I think sometimes the construction company owners are really wondering, if I'm not going to be driving a lot of business through paid advertising, where do I need to be focusing the majority of my time when it comes to my marketing efforts and spend?
Great question. And I think that, if we're sticking with that example, do you know who they are? If you have a list, right? And then typically the answer is, you have some sort of idea, right? So start there. There's nothing better. And this goes back into the ABM component, right? The account-based marketing.
Yep.
Start trying to drive opportunities through that group. Likewise, there are other tools that you can use, the Zoom Info, for example, where you can go through and you can find companies and buyers that are similar, right?
Yep.
Start pulling those lists and start net new. Maybe, cold calling still works for a lot of people. Email marketing, especially in these types of environments, probably work very well. And in today's marketing world, there's just so much noise. As consumers, we're just inundated with noise. So send them something direct mail and then track it, right? You can do something as simple as a QR code, then send it to a landing page and let them talk to you. Or send it to a chatbot, let them talk to you. There are all sorts of ways you can start collecting that data through simple modern tactics that consumers are used to.
It's interesting. I hope you're enjoying my interview with Nichole today. I would like to ask you a question. How can technically skilled construction professionals stop micromanaging and become effective leaders? Well, I have an answer. It's my course called The Shift. It's an online 5-module leadership course, and it's no BS, hands-on leadership development training exclusively for construction professionals. And I call it The Shift because true leadership requires moving from just building projects to building strong, effective teams. And to make that shift, you need to master essential skills like communicating with clarity, handling difficult conversations, leading your team to quick, practical solutions to the challenges they face, and fostering an environment of high performance. In addition to that, if you're going to be effective as a leader, you must learn how to manage your calendar, time, and energy effectively. And so The Shift is a self-paced masterclass paired with highly practical materials that will empower you to transition from just managing structures to confidently leading teams of people. And for a limited time, I am offering The Shift for $197 per seat. And with that, you're going to get bonuses worth up to $3,600. And if you want to learn more about The Shift, click the link in the show notes to theshift.constructiongenius.com. You'll see some testimonials from folks who have taken the course, all the details about the course, and of course, how you can sign up and take the course. And if you sign up 5 or more people for The Shift, and again, this is for a limited time, I will do a Zoom call at the end of the course after everyone's taken the 5 modules and do a Q&A with the team that has taken it to make sure they get the maximum value. So surf on out to theshift.constructiongenius.com. Learn more about the course. I promise you it's all killer, no filler, and it's 100% guaranteed. What that means is that if you don't get value from the course, just let me know and I will give you your money back. All right, let's get back to our interview here today. So tell us a little bit more about your company and what you do for companies in terms of marketing.
Yeah, so we're Extu. We are really here to help companies grow. So we partner with manufacturers, typically enterprise level manufacturers who work with dealers and distributors throughout the channel. Really what we are becoming is a command center for data. So you can see we help run marketing. So omni-channel marketing tactics largely centered around email marketing, webinars, social marketing. So those demand/omni tactics. And then we add incentives for those who actually do the selling. So for example, we work with Eric, and let's just say you're part of Apple Computers, and I'm using them. They're not a client, but so I'm going to use them, feel safe doing it. And Eric of Apple Computers has this partner network, and he knows that he's marketing to these 50 different partners, but he wants to see which marketing activities are driving the greatest results for his business, right? We can actually show that in the command center, and then for those partners who are driving those results, we can actually award them with incentives now. So whether that's travel or an online catalog, think of like an Amazon style catalog. We do card rewards, so debit cards, gift cards. And then we also have something called Uniquely Yours, or high earners. A lot of times these bigger partners are very high earners. They own their own businesses. You're talking about, they earn several $1 million a year, especially in the commercial, contractor world, right? So they may want something unique. As an example, we had a gentleman come through and he bought Rolex watches for him, his wife, and their kids. I think they had 3 sons and the wives of those sons. And so really nice redemption, right? We've had others do 7 Wonders of the World style trips for their families, plastic surgery, you name it. So it can be very personalized.
So you said something very, very interesting that I think a lot of construction companies haven't thought of, and that's using webinars as marketing. And I was just thinking that buying construction services, if I'm a general contractor, buying construction services is often a challenging journey for a lot of folks who are buying those services. And some sort of webinar on how to do it well, where you're not even selling your own services, but you're just educating the clients. That can be tremendously helpful. What are your thoughts on that?
Education is key to all marketing, right? And if you have a webinar, so if you just take to a blog as a starter, you start talking about how you do this, then tie webinars into it, invite your audience, those accounts you already know, those you're pulling from Zoom info, because you're right. People are desperate for information. They want to get it right. Measure twice, cut once kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, education to me is one of the most important components of marketing, regardless of the tactic, especially in webinars.
What about for one of the things that construction companies struggle with too is their messaging in terms of they may serve a variety of niches. And so they struggle to have a coherent message that is able to attract from those specific niches and they become too generic. How do you deal with that particular challenge?
So it's funny, we deal with that ourselves, right? And I think first you have to know your budget. But ultimately, if you can look at all of those niches, right, you put them on a wall. I think you have 2 options. One, if you're looking at it, where do you stand the greatest opportunity for growth this year? Narrow it down.
Yep.
Or look at them and say, what pain points do they have in common? And how can I make this catchy and fun, something that they're going to remember, hyper-focus on the pain points that they share? And then do some spin-offs. So you're investing in that sort of big picture, but as it gets more granular over time.
Interesting. So if I wanted to begin to really hone in some of my marketing and upgrade my game, we began with that idea of brand awareness and account-based marketing. And we talked about internal marketing and sales enablement and demand generation. Where would you start? Because it sounds like a lot. So where should a company start if they want to begin to upgrade their marketing?
Each company is going to be unique. And I think you have to start based on where you're at and market, right? So, and what you're trying to accomplish. Do you have a new product that you're trying to educate folks on? That's going to be brand awareness. Whereas if you're just trying to, you have great brand awareness, but you need to drive growth, demand, and ABM is going to be a lot more important.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of depends on where you're at to make this the right choice.
And then when it comes to marketing, I think too many people think that it's about just getting a new website, and they often rush and spend a bunch of money upgrading their website without really focusing on their messaging and the more fundamental things that we've touched on, such as their culture, which are going to inform the way that they develop and articulate their brand.
For the longest, since I've been alive, your website, and I'm a kid of the 90s, your website was your greatest asset. And it still is. What are the bases for that website building? And I will tell you, to me, a website, while it's your greatest asset, is also the most difficult to build because so much has to go into it. Hackers are a real thing, change pivots, all the things that happen to products and just the evolution of business, the website is front and center. However, I also think in addition to that, you have influencers now. You have AI that can help with a lot of those things, brand advocates. There's so many different moving pieces. And so how you tie it all together, that planning is imperative. And don't go too thin, right? If you have to rebuild a website 1 year, and by the way, you should never just rebuild an entire website. You build page by page and test and evolve would be my recommendation. Having been bitten the tuchus by a complete build one point in my life.
Okay, stop there for a moment. You said build page by page and test. Because,
yes.
If I'm going to be interacting with a marketing agency, I'm not sure they're going to want to build page by page. They want to get their check up front, if you know what I mean, for the whole thing.
Well, then you should push back, and it's, and in all fairness, it's evolving, right? So when I say page by page, what are you really trying to convey? And you can't, and I'll just use the homepage of your website. If you go with an entirely new homepage, right? Or, how do you know which pieces are effective and which pieces aren't?
Yeah.
If you do everything at once without rolling out slowly over time.
Yes.
The same can be true for the entire website. So you may have a plan, but if you don't test and have different variables, you've got your control. That's what it is today. Think of 2 to 3 variables and test over time so that you don't lose your audience, because nothing's worse than Google not being able to find you overnight. Oh, that's especially if you're a growth marketer.
Yeah, doing some blocking and tackling here. How often should I be posting on my blog? Because,
Daily.
it is daily on my blog.
Yes, as often as and people, I think that people, it's so funny. People get this day and time, content comes in so many forms,
Right.
and no one needs a long blog. You can have 300 words, just what's going on today. You can even do that on a video. It's so easy to log into a Teams or to, whatever tool you use. Get your thoughts out, put it out there. You can pre-plan the week before. Here are the few things I want to talk about next week. Go find things that are interesting to you that you want to share and put it. That's what brand advocating is. Find your partners, especially your partners, right? And talk about their brands, what they're doing. It's such an easy thing to do, and so many people don't do it. If you can get MDF funds.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Okay, so then as we wrap up here, give me the top 3 things that I, as a construction company CEO, should be focusing on in my marketing if I really want to begin and to make some progress here.
Know who your audience is, what matters to them today, especially as everything's moving so fast.
Yeah.
And, not just in technology, but commerce, right? The economies, everything's just a roller coaster. So understand what matters to them and relate to them in their business. If they're having hard times, how do you meet them in the middle? You got to understand what's going on. So understanding their pain points. I think 2 is getting your hands on good data. If you don't have it, find a way to get these systems running, because otherwise you're making gut decisions, not data-based factual decisions to help grow your business.
Yeah.
And build the culture and brand that you're proud of. Who do you want to be in this industry, and how do you stand out? Find your unique selling proposition and hold true to it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. One of the things that I just want to encourage my audience here is that particularly those of you who have a strong culture, but you've never really thought about how that culture is your brand, and articulating that brand and that culture will then help you with your marketing. You've really got to begin to do that internal work in addition to the external work of understanding your clients, because if you understand your clients and you understand yourself, then you can begin to articulate a message that attracts the right clients with the right projects so that you can actually build the business that you're looking to build.
Great advice, Eric. And I would say too, create brand advocates internally. The people within your own business know exactly what you're trying to do. Empower them to also go out and share your message.
Let me just make a point of that. That would be industry events, not just sending your BD guys and gals to the industry events, but it would be sending your foreman and your superintendents and even your operators, even someone who's working in your accounts payable or accounts receivable, and just send them there, the ones that are committed to your brand and to your culture, because that can really help to sort of seed the market with that sense of who you guys are beyond just the people who are actually looking to land projects immediately. Okay, so Nichole, thank you so much for your time. Tell us again how we can get in touch with you and how we can find out more about your company.
Yes, so we're Extu. So Extu.com, you can always reach out there.
Extu is EXTU, not X2.
That is it. Yes, EXTU.
Yep.
.com. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Nichole Gunn, Gunn. We can find me.
Awesome. So we will have links in the show notes. Nichole, I appreciate your insights. It's been tremendously valuable and a tremendous time of learning and reminder as well. So thank you so much for joining us here today on Construction Genius.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Thank you for listening to my interview with Nichole, and feel free to share it with other people that you think would benefit from learning more about marketing. Feel free to go to the website, extu.com, to learn more about what they do and connect with Nichole on LinkedIn. All of the links are in the show notes. I'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.